Hello there, 6th graders, and welcome to a brand new chapter. This chapter covers statistics and probability. Now, while you've done probability before, we're going to take it one step up, and we're going to actually go through first all of the correct vocabulary in order to do much harder probability and statistics. Sections 10.1 and 10.2 are going to both be in this video. So let's start off with our key idea about outcomes and events. Now, something to make note of is this. When an experiment is performed at random or randomly, all of the possible outcomes are equally likely. That's an important note to remember. If I say randomly, all of the possible outcomes are equally likely. So here's our key idea, outcomes and events. An experiment is an investigation or procedure that has varying results. The possible results of an experiment are called outcomes. A collection of one or more outcomes is called an event. The outcomes of a specific event are called favorable outcomes. So make note that all of the outcomes are represented by just outcomes. But if we're trying to find the probability of something that we favor, for example, let's say we want to know the probability of an even number, then the even numbers become the favorable outcomes. For example, randomly selecting a marble from a group of marbles is an experiment. And each marble in the group is an outcome. So each of these marbles represent an outcome. Selecting a green marble from the group is an event. So if I want to know the probability of a green marble, then the number of favorable outcomes becomes the green. And that in this case would be 2. All right, example 1. We want to identify outcomes. So over here on the left, we have a number cube. Now, a number cube is just a die or a dice, but we don't say dice because that is considered gambling, so we say number cubes. So we roll the number cube. What are the possible outcomes? Well, the outcomes are all the possible things we could get. So in this example, example A, our possible outcomes, there'd be 6 of them. And they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Really easy. Now in B, what are the favorable outcomes of rolling an even number? Well, the favorable outcomes of rolling an even number would be 2, 4, and 6. So what are the favorable outcomes of rolling a number greater than 5? It would just be 6. Pretty easy, but I want to make sure you understand what all of our vocabulary and terminology represent and mean. So in example number 2, we're going to talk about counting outcomes. So in example A, it says, how many possible outcomes are there? So once again, since there are 6 sections, that means we have 6 outcomes. B, how many ways can spinning red occur? Well, pretty easy. There are 3 ways that spinning red could occur. In how many ways can spinning not purple occur? Well, not purple, that would be 5 ways, because one of them is purple. What are the favorable outcomes of spinning not purple? Now, obviously, this seems really easy, and it is, but there's a mistake that a lot of students make here. Since spinning not purple can occur in 5 ways, I get that there are only 3 colors there. So if you, for example, wrote red, blue, and green, those are correct. However, that's only 3. We need a total of 5 things written down. So the other 2 would also be red. So because we have 3 red, we're going to list the word red 3 times. And then also list blue and green. And that's actually it with sections 10.1. It's pretty easy. So let's go on to section 10.2. 10.2 talks about probability. So let's start with our wonderful key idea. All right, so probability. The probability of an event is a number that measures the likelihood that the event will occur. Probabilities are only between 0 and 1. Underline this, star this. It is a mistake I see so often. You cannot have a probability that is less than 0 and greater than 1. So probability of something, even though it says between 0 and 1, that also includes 0 and 1. So the diagram below relates the likelihoods that something is going to happen. So, for example, 0% or a probability of 0 would be impossible. A probability of 1 is certain. That means it's 100%. It's going to happen. Equal is obviously a half and 50%. Less than half, it's going to become more unlikely. And more than a half, it will become more likely. Example number 1, you do not need to write this down. This is really easy. Example 1 talks about the likelihood of an event. So it says that there is an 80% chance of thunderstorms tomorrow. Describe the likelihood of the event. Well, the probability of thunderstorms is 80%, therefore it's likely going to happen. So the next thing we're going to look at is finding the probability of an event. Now, you've done probability before, but I want to make sure you understand how it looks in the way of a formula. Finding the probability of an event. When all possible outcomes are equally likely, the probability of an event is the ratio of the number of favorable outcomes to the number of possible outcomes. The probability of an event is written as P of an event. So this is going to be P red, P blue, P of even numbers. The top number is the number of favorable outcomes divided by the denominator, which is the number of possible outcomes. So for example, in example 2, we want to find the probability after we roll a number cube. What would that probability be of rolling an odd number? So if we write this, it would be the probability of an odd event, of rolling an odd number. So the probability of odd, obviously if there are 6 sides, that means 3 of them, 1, 3, and 5, would be the favorable outcomes divided by the total number of outcomes, which would be 6. So the probability of rolling an odd would be 1/2. And in our last example, we're going to talk about using probability. So the probability that you randomly draw a short straw from a group of 40 straws is 3/20. How many are short straws? So pretty easy. We're going to write our ratio, which is 3/20. So that means this is the number of favorable outcomes, which would be short straws. This is the total possible outcomes, which is 20. So if we have 40 straws, that's the total number. How many would be short straws? Really easy. You can look at this and know that X is 6. So there are 6 short straws. Remember once again that you could cross multiply to solve this proportion as well. So our answer is 6 short straws. The one thing I would just suggest you make sure you know, because the examples are easy, is to know your vocab. Study your vocab. Understand what an outcome is, what an event is, favorable outcomes, stuff like that.